Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and it's just been announced that we had record numbers of planning applications granted to renewable energy projects in the second quarter of this year. This is very good news for Labour's aim to generate 95% of our energy from clean sources by 2030. The move not only means more secure and cheaper energy, it will help attract more investment, providing more jobs. Of course, there will be local objections. NIMBYism will play its part as always, but also Reform UK and Conservative councils will seek to disrupt plans, partly because they're in hock to the fossil fuel industry, but also because it's in their interest to frustrate anything Labour is doing, which either makes people's lives better or grows the economy. And this does both. So what are the forces ranged against one another here? First, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So the UK is in the middle of an energy war right now. It's a war fought with wind turbines and windfall taxes, policies and power grids. What is at stake? Future of the national economy, quite frankly, and the stability of our climate as well. Since before living memory, fossil fuels have been the undisputed heavyweight champion of British energy. Coal powered the Industrial Revolution. North Sea oil and gas fueled the nation through the latter half of the 20th century. But that era is coming to a dramatic and turbulent end. This isn't just about switching to greener sources. This is a battle for the UK's economic future. We're going to have to look at the historic shift and how it's creating a new generation of economic winners and losers, and how the outcome is going to define the country for decades to come. So to understand the scale of the battle, you've got to look back. So the story of modern Britain was written in coal. It powered the factories, powered the railways, powered the empire. When coal began its long decline, then you had a new black gold rush into the void, North Sea oil. The discovery of oil and gas fields off the coast of Scotland transformed the UK into a major energy producer. It created jobs, generated immense wealth for some people, and gave the country a sort of sense of energy independence, albeit not entirely real. And these jobs are a source of friction even now. It's essential that Labour makes sure that we transition to the new green energy revolution without leaving communities in the lurch as Thatcher did in the 1980s. We talk about winners and losers with this transition. Ordinary communities cannot be the losers. The transition from one industry to another doesn't just happen, it needs to be managed. That is one crucial battlefield in this war. For decades, this idea of fossil fuels powering everything was the status quo. The entire national infrastructure was built around this idea of dig it up or pump it out of the ground and burn it. So it's a really big thing that we're transitioning away from that completely. And this reliance, it came with a hidden price, of course. Geopolitical shocks like Russia's invasion of Ukraine sends energy prices spiraling. It exposes just how vulnerable the country is to volatile global markets. Families then face agonizing choices as energy bills soar. That economic instability, combined with the undeniable reality of climate change, created a crack in the foundation of the fossil fuel empire. The old guard's very powerful, it's very deeply embedded in the economy, but its vulnerability is starting to show. And so a new challenger emerged faster than almost anyone predicted. The revolution, initially quiet because it was just making economic sense, but then all at once. So for the first time across a full year, the UK generated more electricity from renewable sources than fossil fuels last year, 2024. Renewables provided a record 50.8% of the UK's electricity. Now, to put that in perspective, at the start of the millennium, it was 2%. So that's not a gradual shift. That's a huge leap forward. And how did it happen? The answer is basically in the winds of the North Sea. The UK became a global leader of offshore wind. Gigantic wind farms like Dogger Bank, largest in the world, are now coming online, and those enormous turbines are generating vast amounts of clean energy. And in a landmark shift, wind power overtook gas as the UK's single largest source of electricity for the first time over a full year in 2024. Solar power, once dismissed as unworkable in the cloudy UK, what are you doing? Where's the sun then? Where's the sun? Is also having a moment. Huge solar farms are being improved and technology's capacity is set to grow significantly. In fact, when you look at like the costs of energy, it's already the case that producing electricity from solar and wind in the UK is way cheaper than producing it from gas. But the cost of gas is going to pretty much stay as it is. The cost of producing it from solar is just coming down and down and down as solar technology improves all the time. You know, this surge in the renewable market, it marks the most significant transformation of the UK's power system since the Industrial Revolution, which is in the middle of the 18th century. The Challenger, once a lightweight contender, is now landing fairly hefty blows. And the transition is more than just an environmental story. It is of profound economic disruption. It creates winners and losers. And who the losers perceive themselves to be is absolutely crucial. The traditional fossil fuel sector is, of course, going to be one of the losers. The Labour government has extended windfall taxes on the profits of oil and gas producers. And while the government has faced intense calls to stop all North Sea exploration, the policy has been a bit more complex. They've allowed existing licenses to remain, even if they haven't been actioned yet, while also planning for a long-term transition, because transitioning those jobs is going to be crucial. And in the meantime, they cannot even let people think that their jobs are going to be tossed into the bin. For investors, also, you've got the risk of stranded assets, oil and gas reserves, that will never be profitably extracted. So you don't want to put off investors either. But where there are losers, there are also winners. The clean energy sector is booming. The Office for National Statistics estimates that the UK's low carbon and renewable energy economy generated about 70 billion in turnover in 2022, and this figure continues to grow. The government has unveiled plans to boost investment in clean energy. They've created Great British Energy, which is going to spearhead this. This investment is revitalising former industrial heartlands, places like Hull, once a fishing city, now manufacturing some of the world's longest turbine blades. These are new skilled jobs in regions that need them most. And that's already creating a bit of friction within Reform UK, because on the one hand, Reform UK want to block all industrial activity related to net zero. On the other, Hull's new Reform UK mayor is conscious of the jobs it's providing in his area, which gives us a bit of an insight into how Reform UK need to be tackled on their climate stance. A big part of it is pointing out that green energy provides jobs. And for the average person, the ultimate prize is, of course, cheaper, more stable energy prices. The goal is to gain long-term energy security by reducing its reliance on imported gas, which still makes up a huge part of our supply. The UK can better insulate itself from the price shocks that have badly damaged household budgets in the past and continue to do so. Remember, although much of that gas is coming from Britain, it's been pumped out by multinational corporations who sell it to us at international prices. We don't get it cheaper because it's been extracted from the UK, something Reform conveniently forget to mention. The road is bumpy. We've got prices likely to remain high in the short term, but the destination is a system powered by domestic, clean and ultimately cheaper energy. And despite the incredible momentum, with today's news looking very good for Ed Miliband's objectives, the battle is far from won. The front lines are now drawn around two key areas, probably: policy and infrastructure. So the government strategy has often felt like a policy tug of war. On the one hand, we're championing the UK as a clean energy superpower, right? Lifting bans on onshore wind, fast-tracking solar farms, hence the news today. On the other hand, you've got the ongoing debate over the future of North Sea oil and gas, creating uncertainty that makes investors nervous and people, worried about their jobs. So we need clear, consistent policy. That is what is needed to help the renewables industry win here. And we don't want mixed signals. The second front line is physical. It's our infrastructure. The national grid was built for the 20th century. It's a centralised system based on the idea of a few large power stations providing electricity for the nation. It wasn't designed for the decentralised intermittent power that comes from wind and sun. The grid needs to work quite differently with these forms of energy. That requires a colossal investment, not just in more turbines and solar panels, but the grid itself needs to be updated. And in energy storage solutions like giant batteries, pumped hydro projects. The industry isn't immune to economic realities. Recent global supply chain pressures have pushed up the costs for some of these projects because we have to get raw materials and quite often components from other countries. That shows that even the green path can have inflationary bumps. You start off a project, it's going to cost so much, a few years later, oh, the price has gone up. That is the hard grinding work of the transition. It's less glamorous than setting records, but it is where the war will ultimately be won or lost. So what does the future of this battle look like? Winning isn't just about making our electricity clean. That's just the first phase. We then need to move on to more difficult challenges, decarbonising everything else. How we heat our homes, how we travel, particularly electric cars are a thing. Yeah, we're going to need a massive rollout of electric vehicles. But electric jumbo jets, that might be more challenging, but that's also what's going to be needed. We need a shift away from gas boilers to technologies like heat pumps. And we need more research and development into cleaner energy solutions for things that are currently very difficult. We do have new contenders entering the ring. We've got green hydrogen. Small modular nuclear reactors are definitely part of it. Maybe even fusion energy if we can crack that. This is all part of our long-term plan, with billions being channeled into research and development there. The path forward's really clear, even if it's not easy. The UK is at a bit of a crossroads right now. It can either fully commit to the clean energy future and jump ahead of others, becoming a genuine world leader in defining economic opportunity of the 21st century, or we can hesitate, caught between fossil fuel past and what is going to be a low carbon future, regardless of what anyone says, as Reform UK would have us do. We're at this crossroads whereby we can choose to be at the forefront of the new energy-based renaissance, or we can stay in the medieval period, falling behind more enlightened nations. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.